Welcome to Home Renovision, YouTube channel designed to help homeowners renovate their homes and get professional results. Today we are finishing off our shed. That's right, it's time to pimp this baby out. We've got doors and soffit and drainage and storage and functionality to take care of. So stay with us. We're going to show you all the different things that we got to do to turn this into the best shed ever. Well, as you can see, the shed is taking shape. It is starting to look like a shed. We have things that have to get done though. First, we have to finish doing a little trenching around this building. We're gonna add river stone. So we create kind of like a moat around our structure here where water can come down the hill and be diverted around the structure instead of flowing through it. We also want to put in a couple of support posts. We got to do some soffit work so we can keep the birds out. And we've also got to finish up all of our trimming elements. Now remember, we're going to go very New England style finish here. Bam, we have to get it all polyurethane caulking ceiling. We got to get it painted. We got shelves to put in. We got a cedar door for the lawnmower. We got a ramp to install. Whew, man, we got a full day ahead of us. So stay with us. We're going to show you how to do all of these elements so that you can have the most amazing shed in the neighborhood. Okay, so the plan here is really not too difficult, but it's pretty particular too. So bear with us here. We're going to cut the plate out. We're going to add a couple of pressure treated 2x4s at the same depth as this door here. And then we're going to make a 2x4 door with a finished panel on it. And the idea behind it is this. Remember, our panel has an overlay. So we want to make a door that has the overlay. So when the door closes, the overlay closes over the other panel. That's a little specific, but it'll look like a hidden door. And I think that'll be a really cool feature. So we are going to just prep this area, and then we're going to build our frame, and then we're going to, man, we are going to see if we can get that just perfect. Whew, fingers crossed. Let's go to work. All right, so we have an 81-inch door frame opening. So we're just going to cut these down to the exact size, just to help weatherproof the framing a little bit there. Now remember, your lawnmower is generally 22 inches wide, so the hole doesn't have to be much wider than that. And since this is just a cheater door to sneak it in the back wall, we're going to put it at about 26. 8.5. Nice. 8.5 by 84. So the panel is 8.5 by 84. So we're going to do the same kind of framing style for this door and the other concept. So you take your full measurement, you take a full 1/2 inch off, you make your box. That way we can install this relatively tight to this frame and have all of our give over here, which we're going to need in order to make this system work perfectly. So let's see what we get here. We're looking at 26.5, 26 and 5/8, 26 and quarters. Yeah, I got a little bit of movement. We're going to make our door at 26.5, and then we'll go from there. So I'm going to go 77 on my verticals, and then 26 on my 2 horizontals. That'll give me a nice gap all the way around. A basic box frame for our door. The idea here is that once we've got this, we're going to use a piece of the skin of the shed over top of the door, and that's going to provide the stability so that it's not moving out of square. Beautiful. So I just took my measurements for the top and bottom of the door. I'm translating that onto my panel. And I took the full measurement minus a 1/4 inch, and that'll represent my gap where the hinge goes. Okay, so now we have that, and I'm using a piece of scrap here as a straight edge. Real handy. Now we just got to measure from the floor to the roof line, and then we can get this perfect. All right, so before I can cut my door panel, I want to install my roofing trim here now. And this is just a little, like a crown mold, a little edge trim. So, 85. Here we go. And we have the template from earlier on when we framed the place. Here it is. All right. And we're going 85 from that. I think we'll cut it first so we can get a perfect measurement. $85. Template. And in case you haven't noticed, we're using this template to build the entire shed. It was just done with a simple measurement technique. I think we got that back on the second video of this series. Okay. Okay, so we're actual here. 83 1/4. Actual here, 87 1/4. Well, that is nice. We'll take off a gap for the bottom, and we're going to take off 3/8 altogether. This one was 87 1/4. We'll take off 3/8. That's just a matter of cutting this, nailing it to our frame, throwing our hinges. We got a door. So before we attach to the door frame, we'll check and see how our measurements line up. Oh yeah, that's gonna be perfect. Okay, now the most important aspect of this door is to make sure, there's two things we have to make sure of. One, that we don't have too much space. Now my frame has to fit inside the existing frame. Let's double check. We got 80 inches. I believe my hole is 81, Max. Yes. So I can't have that more than an inch off the ground or we're in trouble. Pretty darn flush here. I'm gonna nail the hole straight side first. Try to keep this door as straight as possible. When you're building your own door, you really want to consider your hardware. There's so many options. Now remember, our hinge is gonna go like this, the middle of the pin on the cut line. So regardless, we're going to have lots of wood right up to the first screw. So I can actually have an overhang of this material past my door frame of 3/8 of an inch. And that'll still allow that screw to find the door frame, which is awesome. On the other side, I need to have a latch that'll operate. And so that will work for me there as well. Yes, just confirm that your hardware options are going to work depending on where you put your skin. Now that we have a little bit more confidence to move forward, we'll hammer it all down. I'm also going to have to add some horizontal blocking where these two are going to go so that I can tie that hinge into the frame. I'm using more nails than usual here because I'm not just attaching a skin, I'm using this skin as my structural support to keep the door from twisting over time. Okay, so I'm just making sure that where these screws go in for my latch, it's on a cross member and as close to the edge as I can. I'm making my marks. Remember, I'm going to be drilling on a slight angle inwards to make sure I catch the lots of this meat and I don't cause it to split. 6.5 and 65. So because we're using the same hinge system on the side door, and you can see both at the same time, it's important visually to make sure the hinges are at the same height on each door. So we will cut a couple more cross pieces here, and screw all that together, and we're good to go. Perfect. We need one more. That is why you keep your scraps around. Perfect. Touch too high here, I think. I mean, it's like a hidden door, right? So it takes a little bit of time to perfect it. All right. Okay, so we measured off to where our center line is. Put our hinge right where we want it. We'll get our hinge installed to the building first, and then we'll attach it to our door. .65 was our center mark. I like to set that hole first because I only have 2 hands. There we go. Beautiful. Now here's the trick. We have a little bit of room at the top, and the weight of that door is sitting on the plywood right now to create our airspace. So we're going to use our hammer, just give it a bit of a raise to get it off, to get the weight off the wood. Here we go. Well, it's raining now. Wonderful. And here are my screw holes. Just going to line up. You can see how close I am to the edge. So we're going to put a 5-degree on it and go backwards. Help establish that, burn that course of action in. Here we go. And this one we're going to do straight. So when we drive that screw in, secondly, it isn't going to change the direction of the latch, or the position, sorry. So put that one in first. All right. And then we'll do this one on the angle. And this one should be just like the other one. Put it in position, mark our holes. Hard to get the angle for the screw established once the hardware is there. Let's drive everything straight. Okay. And just like the last one, don't put the screws all the way in so you know you got it where you want it. Remember, don't tighten the screw heads till they go flat, or it'll just break them right off. There we are. Okay. Nice. All right. Okay. So the weather report doesn't look all that great. So while we got the ability to work, we're going to get it done. We're going to finish all the trimming on the shed, which is basically taking our 5/4 boards and ripping, like we said, at 2 1/4 and 3 1/4. All right. So that when we come to our outside corners, we will have a finished 3 1/4 face here. And then this 1 inch thick plus this 2 1/4 gives us the same dimension on both sides of the corner. Just helps tie everything together real nice. Of course, we'll use the 2 1/4 across the top and then the nice thick base across the bottom. Trim everything up, and then we can get our polyurethane caulking out, seal it all up. So hopefully in a couple days when the rain stops, we can get this thing all painted up. Just setting up my table saw. If you're working by yourself, this system actually is more efficient than using a table saw because the boards that you're going to have are never straight. So having a fixed fence causes the boards to get cut different dimensions. When I rip it this way, I'm actually cutting exactly 2 1/4 the entire length of the board. And because it gets skinnier, it's easier to straighten as you install. So I just put 1 screw together in the joint in the corner. We're going to just make sure that this actually fits. I might have to cut the profile of our template on here. No we don't. Okay, slowly we're going to take where we screwed it, attach it to the building. First we'll screw the boards together, then we'll screw it to the building. Now you can see we're getting superior weather protection here. We're also going to be using a polyurethane caulking here to connect these 2 joints, and it's very flexible. It's good for 4 season, and it'll keep this stuff nice and dry. Now, when we were at the store the other day, we were looking at their kits. We didn't see any of the kits that had any of the protection like that. So I don't know what they're using or if they're using a system, but this is the way to finish it off. Now we're going to finish this off with a quick light sand and a paint job as well. I mean, the possibilities are endless for what you want it to look like. This is an important step. Demonstrate this. Because I'm putting on soffit, I don't want this tight up to the roof. I want to leave room for the soffit to go in behind. Using J-trims or whatever else will have you. So I'm actually going to install flush with this. Remember to burn it in so it doesn't split. I'm going to put it in flush at the other end. That way after the soffit goes in, you'll see the whole 2 1/4 inch. And it won't look stupid. If you jam it all the way up there, half of it's going to disappear before you're done. So far we're pleased. I mean, let's face it. After seeing all this, you realize if you can build a shed, you can build a house. Oh, loving it. That's for you, Anthony. This is the best part because this is our door. And the way we're going to do our door system is we are going to have the base trim from the door overhang, and we're going to have it join on that 45-degree angle right here. Okay, so we'll cut that through, attach this to the door, and then over here, at this point, we'll cut that off. We'll also put a 45 here, and then the end piece will have a 45 there. So it'll open to complete 90, plus the gap, which will give you about a 100-degree opening, which is more than enough to get your lawnmower out. Don't put your knee in the green goop. Because we don't get the door open enough for comfortably getting the lawnmower in and out by going tight, we're going to remove almost 1 inch from the dimension of this wood. Also, I'm going to change the angle to full 55 degrees. Okay, so if you can imagine the last piece here, if it's this far apart, when you open the door, it'll swing to this far open before it makes contact, which is perfect. That is a ton of space. Now this, on the door, all gets painted the same. If there's any door in behind sticking out, just get the paint on there as well. Keep that line straight from a distance. No one will ever know. Okay, gotta get the top on, the outside corners. Let's make sure it functions. Nice. And we'll cut that just a little bit long. Ah. Do-do-do. Nice. The next thing for us to do is get some exterior sealant. I'm liking this stuff by Latch. It's an all-weather. Now, because the different country situation we got going on, you probably find a hard time getting Latch product, but you will have no problem going to your hardware store and saying, I'd like to get a polyurethane caulking, okay? So that's the secret. This is a polyurethane. There are many varieties on the shelf. All you gotta do is cut off the tip on a short angle, okay? Not too big. That represents about, not even a 1/4 inch. This was actually marked for 1/4 inch, it was lower down. So less is more. The stuff expands crazy amount. Pull your little tip out of your caulking gun, puncture the hole, and then stick it in your gun. Now, polyurethane caulking is not something you want to apply, lick your finger and wipe. You don't want to touch it, all right? Touching this stuff wrecks it. So what you've got to do is you got to get good at applying the right amount of pressure to get a nice consistent bead. So invest in a good caulking gun that when you release the handle, this piece backs off and gets rid of the pressure. So it doesn't keep pushing caulking out when you don't want it. So and I'll demonstrate. The idea here is you want to bridge the gap from the wallboard to your trim piece. Filling every one of these holes, nice and easy on the pressure. You want to have enough coming out that you're pushing it into the corner. I'm at about a 5-degree angle here. Okay? And I'm pushing it into that joint with the tip of the gun. This way I don't have to run my finger down there, and I get a nice healthy bead so that it has the ability to expand in hotter weather. Because today is not as hot. And you want to just continue all the way to the other side without stopping. And the better you get this, the faster you can go. But this is not about speed. If you go too fast and you're not comfortable, you'll just make a huge mess. And you don't want to do that. And we're going to move as we squeeze, keeping that snowplow ridge there, that little bit of a bead right in front of you. And every time you stop to get more pressure on the handle, stop moving your gun when you let go of the handle. Here we go, nice and easy. That one not too bad. The best advice I have when working with polyurethane, if you're not happy with something, let it dry and then take a knife and cut it off afterwards. If you get a big blob or a ridge, it's easy to remove with a knife later. Try to wipe it out now. You're just going to get it all over yourself and all over your work. It's going to look like junk. Now the reason we want to seal all this up is because this is our water diversion system. Okay? We don't want water getting in behind our trims. We're going to use this to protect all of our boards. Everything inside that shed. All right? The same system you also want to use on your windows. And feel free to get on a ladder and go across the top of all of these as well. This way, even when there's a driving wind, you're not going to get problems in behind all of your trim. If you don't want to use a sealant, that's fine. Then use all pressure treated lumber inside your shed. But this will also help the exterior paneling here last a lot longer. Because when you caulk this first and then you paint, you're overlapping the paint on a seal. And that protects that caulking from the UV rays. And that'll make this last 40, 50 years without even caulking again. I'll show you what happens when you use your finger. Okay? Get some kind of a weird, smooth texture. But now there's bumps everywhere. So where do you stop? Because you can't get the bumps to sit tight. It's just going to cause you all kinds of problems. Create shadows, You can't stop. You touch a joint, you got to do the whole joint. Such a pain in the butt. Ah. That's why I suggest not touching it. I think it looks better without using your finger. All right, well here we are on a cold, windy morning, and we're here to finish pimping out our shed. Very excited about getting this project done, as you know. Let's take a look, because what we did, you know how we had this little trench dug out here? We just filled it up with some rock, little landscape cloth. It's a nice way to bridge the gap, and it gives us great drainage. So now the water coming down the hill hits the rock, it's gone. It's going to disappear, go around our shed instead of through it, which is awesome. We have our cedar and our Soffit products here, so we are going to put up our posts and put up our roof system underneath to close it all up. That'll keep all of the birds and animals out. Then we've got a few more things to do inside, some hurricane ties. We're going to show you how to install those. Those are simple and they work. And we got a few other surprises and tricks up our sleeve, so let's get at it. So we're going to install our hurricane ties today, and this basically attaches the roofing system to the wall panel. It comes in a hardened galvanized steel. This stuff is all engineered, and so when you buy something like this, you're going to get the screws and the bit and the fastener all from the same company, all engineered to produce and get a good result here. So you don't have to overthink it. You just really want to get it. Remember the rule. When you've got a fastener, every hole in that fastener is designed to have a screw in it. Okay? So whether it's a hurricane strap like this, or it's a joist hanger, every hole gets a fastener. I know that seems like overkill, but it's engineered like that for a reason, and since I'm not an engineer, I don't need to know the reason. I just need to know to fill the hole. So we had a lot of comments in the videos about this latch, and because it's a gate latch, you could get locked in your shed, and they got a point there. So what we're going to do is we're just going to throw the string on. It's an old system. I think every old farmer in the world and gardener's got this done. We just got to drill a hole through the frame so that we can attach this piece of nylon string. And then if you ever do get locked in here when the wind blows, you can just open the latch and get out. Now because we're drilling such a deep hole, I don't want to have a huge hole on the other side. And I want it to be on an angle so that water will actually drain out. I don't want water sitting in the hole. So we're going to do this so that I can get my bit buried in there and come out the other side. Now my string is really brutal to try to work with here, so I'm just going to wrap it around my drill bit. All right. And the idea here is just to give it something stiff that I can use to push it through the hole. There it is. Okay. Woohoo! This is just temporary. We're going to go to the store and buy some nylon string, but we recognize the importance of not locking ourselves in as well. So we've got our beautiful 4x4 by 10 foot cedar posts. They're a little bit too long. We're going to go right from the concrete pad into a metal block, right into the roof. And we're going to block it into the roof. So we add some stability and rigidity, but also so that post can support lateral movement for weight. Because we got a couple of surprises. We want to be able to hang some stuff off that. So we just got to mark it and cut it, all 4 sides, because I don't have a saw big enough to go through in one pass. So here we are. Now these cedar posts, they don't have to go up to the sheathing, just into the frame. And I'm just going to throw in 1 screw for now so that the wind doesn't blow it around on me. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take our level this post off in both directions, and then bolt it into the ground. Once we have that, we can take our structural screws. We're going to go right through from the outside and into this post to pick up that. So we have a nice load transfer from the roof overhang into the post itself. In case somebody comes along and bumps into this in the meantime, I'm going to just put my marker right on the concrete. Here we are. There we go. Now that's not the fastest hammer drill in the world, but it is the most convenient. This is a 1/4 inch by 3 1/4 Tapcon screw with a Phillips head. Okay, this takes a 1/2 inch bit and it just tightens up. Okay, now the cedar posts are in, I'm just going to finish installing my hardware. You want to do something aesthetically pleasing, so the middle of this from here to here, and maybe if this screw goes on this line here, that'd be nice. All right. If you want to measure, go ahead, but in my experience, if it looks good, it is good, because that's how everyone else is going to judge it, how it looks. A pre-drill, about 1 inch in. There we go. Some nice headlock exterior black screws. The difference is we want to install it on the framework that's in behind the door. So I'm lining it on the nails here. And same thing with the pre-drill. This one's 3.5 inches thick, so I'm not worried about the depth of my pre-drill. We're going to use our structural screw coming through here, through the outside plate, through that 2x4 and into this, about 3 inches in. So we're pretty confident that that's going to hold, but the strength of the screw is in the thread. So the way you double the strength of a screw is by blocking from here to the next piece. So that's all we're going to do in here. Add some blocking, and you'll notice I got a new tape measure for all of our friends who are on the metric system. So this is 6 1/8 or 155 millimeters. Huh? How does that turn out? Ah, nuts, 154.5 millimeters. And there we go. Now what we've done is we've transferred the load responsibility from all the hardware in the corner and then added this one and added this one because the plywood above it is also nailed down to the, and added this one because it's nailed down. You understand the concept here? Because it's all attached and now it's blocked. Nothing can twist loose. It's going to be brilliant. So what I'm going to do here is a little bit different. Just going to eyeball a measurement here. I'm going to cut this one in. I'm going to put it blocking right next to this. I'm going to screw it from both sides. Nice, toy like a tiger. Your neighbor's awning didn't do as well in the storm as your shed did. We got a little ahead of ourselves making this sexy the other day. I'm going to pull this off so I can install my Soffit trim as far back as I can. It gets nailed on, so I want to install it behind this piece of wood. How to install Soffit, take one. All right, here we go. Really simple. We're using a perforated Soffit, so we have airflow. We're going to add a little piece to the back and cover everything else up so it's nice and pretty. This is the product here, okay? And you'll notice the profile. The edges are thin and then everything else is a little thicker. So we have two kinds of trims to install it with. This is a Sill Trim. It's nice and skinny and it receives all of that thin edge. It holds it nice and tight and gives a nice clean look. And this is a J trim. Now if you use that, it's not quite as pretty, but it will work. All right, it's just your stuff is going to be wobbling around in it and it won't fit as tight. So this is for areas where you have the ends or you have to cut your profile. So we got a few of each and we're going to get this installed. So we're going to start off with the Sill Trim. We'll place our soffit into it, add a few screws, and then that's simple. So we'll just show you the quick process here. On something this square, it's not that tricky, right? Because we have a 10-foot shed. Look at this, 10-foot product. I mean, it's about as easy as it gets, right? You can design your long wall. The outside is 10 feet. Then all of your roofing materials, all your plywoods, all your sheet goods are going to work out really well. It reduces the amount of work that you have to do. Makes your life quick. So you can whip one of these together in a weekend. Unlike us, we're taking us almost a month. And I'm going to get these little nails out here. Now you don't have to use the nails that are as long as I am. These are leftover from the roof and they're going to work great. All right, so here's our soffit screw. It's really short because it only has to go through the metal, and you only install this on the thin part. And the head is fat, like it's huge. Just in case your soffit gets a lot of weather and does a little moving around, the aluminum siding or the aluminum soffit will tend to bore a bigger hole. But with a head like that, it's never coming loose. 32. I would suggest getting a nice pair of snips like those Weiss. They are awesome at making nice long straight cuts without curling all the metal up. So we got to get up, then we got to get over. So every 16 inches or so in the middle, line up your 2x4. Makes everything look very pretty and intentional. I'm just going to get rid of a little extra metal here that's not needed. Yeah, it's that easy. I know. Now, for those of you who are not inclined to use nails in this situation, just go ahead and use the soffit screws. Roy. Let's do the next sheet. Almost inevitably, once you fold it one way, when you fold it back, it just breaks off. We just want to meet up in the middle here where it's absolutely pretty. Now I'm tight against the edge right now, and I'm going to pull back this way about 1/8. Just leave a little room for expansion when it's warmer outside. So now we want to get a piece of J-trim and cap this, and then another one reversed to install here so that we can start putting the next piece of soffit down the other side. We're going to screw through all 3 pieces of metal at the same time here. Lock that in place. Okay, now we're just going to reinstall our trim. Restore this all back to its natural looking beautiful state. Now remember, when you're working with your soffit, especially when you're doing a shed, the world is not going to be perfect. Okay, and if you come up a 1/2 inch shy or you have a little bit of a gap, cut an extra piece or 2 of this stuff, go back to back. The goal is to get it closed, all right? We want it closed so that we don't get critters and bees and stuff coming into our shed. That is the whole idea. Now, if you want to really work hard and do all of the 3D imaging on some software and work out all your building materials before you get started to make sure that everything fits, go right ahead. But generally, in the real world, we just make sure stuff works. All right, here we go. The wrong drill bit. And the secret here is to measure in advance to know if you're finishing with a thin piece or the thick piece. That determines whether it's a sill or a J-trim. Here's my 4-foot headlock screw. Just a little tongue-in-cheek there, folks. These things are really long. I think they're 6.5 inch. You can see that if I come through here into my post, after I'm buried in the wood, I'm going to be coming out the other side, which is why it's nice to have it up above the soffit. So what we're going to do is we're going to just drive this bad boy in here. We're going to bury it until the head is completely in the wood and it's nice and flush, because we have plans to paint all of this trim. Once we're done that, we're going to have a nice compression between here and the post, and it's never going to move. Part of making things pretty is adding a little bit of color. We're going to use 6 inches from the roof, and we're going to put a couple of these in here and hang some pretty little plants, because I like to throw a little bit of color. 1.5 inch structural black screws so that they're not just decorative, they're incredibly strong. Well, the next thing we're going to do is we're attaching a couple of eye bolts here. But if you want to know why, you're going to have to watch the reality Renovision series. You're going to want to watch the reality Renovision episode for this one. I guarantee you've never seen this feature on a shed before. Oh, jeez. Who needs a gym when you got a job like this? Now, we are going to add a little ramp to the side of the shed for the lawnmower, just to kind of make it easier without all the bumps and stuff. What we're going to do is we're just going to cut out a little bit of the grass here so we can drop this side, and then we're going to use some limestone screenings. You can use stone dust, you can do gravel, whatever you're in the mood for. And then we're going to lift this side up a little bit more flush with the front, just to help finish this off. Oh, and there's a lot more grass here than there was over there. Let's see how she works. Ah, how nice is that? Lots of room for lawnmower off the side. Well, thanks for joining us on our episode of How to Pimp Out Your Shed. Now, we are talking about all the finishing touches that make it a difference between just being a box in your yard to being an outbuilding, part of the home, part of your lifestyle. Listen, if you like this kind of content, please give us the thumbs up. Don't forget to ask your questions in the comments below and, engage in conversation, because there's a lot of information out there, a lot of different time zones and temperature zones and kind of different building codes and wind, and oh my God, there's a huge world out there of construction and building codes. So feel free to have all those conversations in the comment section. I'll chime in on a regular basis as well. And if you want to see this thing completely finished, because it's not yet, we still have yet to paint it. And we got a special surprise. You're going to find that in the Reality Renovision series that's coming up next week. Or if you're watching this a year from now, just click the link in the end of the description. Talk to you again soon.